Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Storytime Society. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so glad you're alive. Thank you for tuning in. The theme of this episode is drumroll, updates only. Are we surprised? No, but you guys seem to love these, so I'm giving you what you want, okay? The title of the first story is My fiancé, male 30, called off our wedding a week before and left me, female 30, in complete confusion. So my ex-fiance, male 30, has canceled our female 30 wedding a week before it taking place. We've been together for about 6 years and lived together for context. What happened basically was an argument that escalated. We were heading to my program graduation. It's a smaller event of about 10 students and some professors from a community college. On that morning, as we were getting ready, I asked if he'd be okay to wear one of his button-ups instead of the shirt he had on so we can get a nice photo. He was annoyed and snapped, saying, quote, "Why do I have to do things for others?" And I told him that he truly doesn't have to. I was just asking, but it's ultimately his choice. He ended up putting the button-up on and we arrived at the ceremony. Everything went fine and he was very happy for me. However, on the way home in the car, traffic was filling up and he was annoyed. I offered an alternative route that I know cuts some time and the exit to that route was coming up. He didn't take it, and I was slightly annoyed about it because he was cranky with me about traffic. So I asked him why he didn't take it. He started full on yelling that my tone is rude and that he doesn't have to drive the way I tell him to. I replied saying that I literally just asked and I don't actually care what route he takes. He was the one having problem with traffic. He blew up and blamed me for getting upset. When we got home, I apologized and explained that I didn't mean to come across as mean. I also said that screaming doesn't help in any situation and that we should talk instead. He basically explained that an apology doesn't solve anything and that he needs such things to not happen, otherwise he would continue exploding at me because, quote, "That's the only time I listen to him." After a few hours, we spoke again. He apologized for yelling, and I apologized for the miscommunication that happened. Despite resolving this, later that night, I was crying due to the fact that he so easily yells at me when he's upset. I was so upset that even on such an important day for me, I felt like he picked fights. And to add to this, yelling is such a red flag for me, and I never do that to him, or anyone for that matter. The next morning, we were having breakfast, and he asked why I seem gloomy, so I told him that everything's okay, I'm just processing what happened yesterday. He asked me to please share with him, so I told him that I felt like my special day was kind of ruined by fighting about things that we could have resolved very easily. He immediately just flipped out and started getting angry again. He blamed me for the fights, and when I replied that I don't think it's fair to blame me, he got angrier and said that he can't do this, that I'm not a good communicator, and that he cannot get married like this. I was full on shocked. I thought he was talking out of emotion like many times before, but this time he actually ended up sending a mass text to some guests to let them know that the wedding is called off. I was flabbergasted at the quickness and so confused. We started arguing and then had to leave for our days. Later that day, when we returned, I asked if this is truly something he wants, to call everything off, and he responded with a confident yes. What I thought was an action out of anger seemed to be a solid for him. For the rest of the night and the next day, I tried to fix things between us. After many hours of talking and lots of crying from my end, he kept explaining that I don't communicate well and that this cancellation is my fault. I tried to offer some solutions, but he was full on with the decision to cancel and break up. I asked if we could give it another day or two to ensure that this is what he wants before we cancel the venue. He declined and asked to cancel the venue and vendors immediately. So we did. The next day, I went on errands and then met with my friend. It was truly such a hard day and I was heartbroken, still digesting this is happening. When I came home, he asked to talk and started crying that he regrets everything he said in the last days, that he didn't mean it. He was angry and didn't think straight. He said he will start therapy and wanted to do couples counseling now too, after I offered it many times. Anyway, he apologized profusely and he kept saying that if we can mend everything or whether he effed up. I was almost sure this regret would come, and honestly, maybe it was mean, but I said, yeah, You effed up big time. You made a rash decision that hurt our relationship big time. There's no going back from here. He pretty much begged for another chance, but everything is canceled and my trust is shattered. The wedding's supposed to be in 2 days. His aunt was supposed to be on the way to our house to help us pack decorations. And now there's no way we can schedule everything again. And frankly, I don't want to at this point. This is not the first he cancels plans or breaks up with me during a disagreement. Everyone is telling us that this is fixable, that clearly we love each other. So if we want, this situation doesn't have to be the end of the relationship. But I don't understand how. So much time, effort, and money has gone into this wedding that's now done. And plus, more importantly, I can't trust him anymore. I don't know what to do at this point. We were supposed to go on a honeymoon right after, so now I'm thinking on going by myself. He asked if we can go together and spend that time fixing things, but I'm questioning everything. I think I prefer going by myself to do some soul searching. Should I call this quits and move on with my life, or take his word and start couples counseling? I love him with my entire heart, and we had many loving experiences between us over the years. We don't have any issues aside from such incidents, but I don't know whether it's actually possible to come back from this one. Thoughts and advice.
If you want extra content weekly, head over to patreon.com/storytimesociety and become a member on there for extra content. Love you.
Well, I'm going to say he's definitely projecting. He's the one that's a terrible communicator. Him yelling every single time you guys want to talk about something and are arguing, you can argue without yelling. Simple as that. He's the one that's a terrible communicator, yet he was blaming you. And then, not only that, but he makes a rash decision to call off a wedding, which shows how quick he is to anger. And that also just, he needs therapy. I'm not sure that you guys, I don't think that couples therapy is going to fix this. I think that he needs therapy and you need to get out of this relationship as soon as possible. I don't think, like you said, you can't trust him. You can't trust someone like this. Are you kidding me? That's literally if you have abandonment issues, well, if you don't have them, surely you have them now, because this man definitely instilled that inside of you. Constantly breaking up with you or randomly, irrationally ending a literal marriage or a wedding, I guess, calling off a wedding out of pure emotion. I could never trust someone again. I could never trust my partner again, ever, to keep me safe within our relationship and with my emotions. No, thank you. I don't want to work on that relationship, and I think that you would be much better for it if you didn't continue. Okay. OOP's comment, a commenter said, "For me, what sticks out is he seems bent on ruining special moments for you. That feels calculated. Does he have trouble controlling his temper and reactions at work, with friends? If not, he's choosing to use you as a punching bag." That's also a very big red flag when they constantly are ruining special events for you. Terrible. OOP said he has trouble controlling his reactions with friends and work too. Once he cools down, he processes what happened and tried to ensure it won't happen again. Although these situations have lessened with time, this last blow up was disproportionately huge. The top comment says, "You don't want to marry this man, and he's doing you a huge favor. Huge. Find a place to live, extricate yourself financially from him, and thank your lucky stars you're not going to waste a decade with a man who screams at you all the time before you get that divorce. God forbid you have kids with him." Okay, there's a small update, and it was in a comment 5 days later. I just wanted to provide an update. Since all this happened, he apologized profusely and offered to return the venue and still go and get married on the same day. He also offered couples counseling starting now and right after we get married, if I still want to. He also offered to go on the trip together to fix things. I declined everything since the damage has been done, and I decided to go on the honeymoon myself while he packs all his items. He's going to start his own therapy journey while we're broken up. I don't know what's next, but this hurts so much because we still love each other. He's going to work on his mental health to address the impulsive actions when he's upset. He also realized it wasn't actually a communication issue, but rather how he felt attacked due to his own confidence. I appreciate his honesty, but I can't see how it's possible to forgive what happened. another thing that scares me is that why? Like, I don't know. I think it's just so weird for him to be like, oh, we can still go get married after he's the one who texted a bunch of people. That's so embarrassing. Are you kidding me? If I were one of those guests and they were like, texted me, oh, just kidding, actually, it's back on, I'd be like, okay, well, I don't really know if I want to even attend this wedding anymore in support of this marriage that is randomly being called off and then being called back on. That's crazy. Okay, 7 months later, 11 from the original post. And this was posted May 25th. This is an update. For everyone who attempted to talk some sense into me, you all have no idea how many times the comments in the original post saved me from going back and second guessing myself. You literally saved me. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. The moment I stepped back fully, I felt so much more like myself, a confident, lively, and silly version of myself. I missed her so much. And to add to it, my 31st birthday felt like a complete rebirth. Almost a year later, I'm somehow the happiest I've ever been. My entire life fell apart and I struggled immensely. But surprise, everything worked out. Now I'm in a new relationship and it feels so peaceful, which took a lot of adjusting too. The ex feels like a past life. Thank you. For anyone reading this, please leave the abusive relationship. If you're questioning whether it's abusive, the odds of it being so are high. Your sanity, mental wellness, and physical health matter. Don't forget that. It does get better, not only in movies. Okay, so happy for her. Thank God she left that. I mean, I can't imagine ever trying to come back from that relationship. Obviously, some people would decide to work on that, but I think that there's no situation in which it ends. I mean, I guess there is, because there's obviously an exception for every situation, but I feel like 99% of the time, if you're in a relationship like this and it's, coming to an end and you have a way out, I would definitely suggest continuing with that way out. Like, I genuinely think this is probably the best thing to ever happen to her, and I'm sure she feels that way. The top comment says, everyone is telling us that this is fixable. No, it's effing not. I can see why she stayed with him for so long if everybody in her life runs to do damage control. And then someone commented, nope, there are levels of fucked up. Completely forgetting plans for an SO's special event, for example. And then there's this asshole. This was a relationship killing F up. Ground salted, staked through the heart, nuked from orbit, killed from the cloud. There's no coming back from that. I would have to agree. The title of the next story is, I, 21 female, suspect that I might be my boyfriend, 29 male, of 2 years, side chick. Some details. Tim and I have been together for 2 years. We are both foreigners living in Europe. Names have been changed. Tim is a very private person in general, and so maybe some of the strangeness stems from that. In order to explain everything, I think I have to start from the very beginning. Tim and I met at an event for native English speakers after each of us having lived here for a year. We hit it off immediately. Later that week, we went to a pub crawl with other people from the event and we hooked up. Only a few days later, we decided to meet up again. But when trying to decide if it would be at my place or his, he told me it has to be mine and he'll explain why later. For the record, I do not live in an ideal situation to be having people, much less men, over, and he was completely aware of the situation. He came over and told me that he is currently still living with his ex-girlfriend of about 3 months. He had his own room and everything, but because he had prepaid for 6 months of rent to lend her some money, he was staying there. Okay, so yeah, I know this is weird, but who am I to judge? He says they are definitely broken up, and I'm just sleeping with the guy right now, so whatever. A few weeks go by and we decide to start officially dating exclusively. He says he's just living with his ex, who we'll name Stephanie, temporarily for another 3 months, and then he'll find another place. All right, so it's a weird situation, but I trust him. And he'll leave in 3 months. He complains about having to live with her and says it's uncomfortable. He also told me why they broke up, which was because he caught her cheating on him with her ex at a party. So I'm not worried about them getting back together. I'm not 100% comfortable with the situation, but it's manageable. A few months pass and Tim doesn't move out. He says he's now got his own little apartment in the same house, but that it's so much better for him to stay there because he doesn't have to buy any furniture and the rent is cheap. Remember, we're foreigners, so buying a ton of furniture that you're just going to have to sell when you leave is annoying. He eventually starts saying that he's going to bring me over there to show me that they're living separately and whatnot. Long story short, that never happened. Every time I asked him to ask her about it, he'd say that she would get upset and blah, blah, blah. Apparently, she was aware that he had a girlfriend, but didn't like it and wanted to get back together. After a year, he finally moved out. Not into his own place, but into the spare room at his buddy's house. I had been to this buddy's place before, only once though, and that has been the one and only time I've ever met one of his non-mutual friends, which is suspicious and strange on its own. I didn't help with the move, not for lack of trying, so no, I never saw him move his stuff in there. Again, this was a temporary situation until he found a place of his own. Through various circumstances, company being bought out, which led to job insecurity, him being extremely picky about finding an apartment, he has still yet to move into a place of his own. It's been about 10 months since he moved into his buddy's place, and I've yet to be there, even though I've asked many times, and he always says yes, but then later says that he doesn't want to intrude or be a nuisance, etc. So essentially, I've never seen where he lives. Those things, along with me never having met his friends or Skyped with his family, are the underlying basis for my suspicion. But here's where the real stuff comes. Last night, when I couldn't sleep, I went Facebook stalking. I searched for tagged photos of Tim because I know he's weird about his Facebook and doesn't let tagged pictures and posts show up on his wall. While going through the pictures, I found 3 pictures of him while he was visiting home over the summer. In each of 3 pictures, there is a girl who is untagged and sitting next to Tim. In 2 of the 3 pictures, his arm is around her, but the pictures are more posed and everyone's arms are around each other. 2 of the pictures are with friends, so I figured she's just a friend from home, no big deal. In 1 picture, though, they are with his sister and her husband and daughter, so much more intimate. I do not know what Stephanie looks like, and she doesn't have Facebook. I can't find a picture of her through Googling, but I think this girl might be her. I don't know exactly why I think that, but I do. I did some more Google research and found Stephanie's grandmother's obituary. She died in January, so after Tim would have moved out of the house, and definitely after they should have been broken up. And yet, on the obituary, his name is listed next to Stephanie's as members of the family. I do know that he was so close to the grandmother and that she left him stuff in her will, but still, I'm suspicious. If what I suspect is true, that means that he was able to hide this from me and her for 2 years, which is honestly just impressive. Right now, though, I'm stuck. I don't want to bring up my relatively weak evidence with him until I can be sure, because he'll just have an excuse and I'll just accept it because I want to trust him and be with him. I don't know how to get any more proof that the girl in the pictures is Stephanie, or how to know for sure one way or the other. So that's where I'd like advice. I'm not going to break up with him without knowing 100% because I honestly do love him, but I don't know how I can 100% know. Any advice or help is appreciated, although please be constructive.
Storytime Society is now available on all listening platforms. If you are on any of those listening platforms, I would really appreciate it if you rated me 5 stars. Thanks for all the support.
Okay, well, the fact that you guys are dating for 2 years and you haven't, I mean, I get that you're like in a different country and you're in Europe or whatever, so it's a little bit different, but like you haven't been over to his place and you've been dating him for 2 years? What? He could be a serial killer and you wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even know it. He could be hiding bodies in his apartment and you would have no clue. Like, I don't know. I fear that the advice would be break up, because if he's this secretive to his girlfriend of 2 years, there has to be something else going on. Some of the relevant comments: how long have they been seeing each other? We see each other at least twice a week, usually more, and he spends the night almost every weekend. That's an awful lot of time to spend away from home with a mistress. You mentioned that you are 2 hours away from their old apartment. What would allow him be away? What would allow him to be away for so long, so regularly? His job? Is he still that far away after moving out? Do you ever do anything in his area, or are you always in your area? There's a lot of suggestive hooks for Reddit to latch onto here, but there's not a ton of meat within your post to come to an absolute conclusion. And then OOP said, their old apartment is only about a 40-minute drive away. However, because I don't have a car, I'd have to get there using public transport. And because it's in the middle of nowhere, it would take me about 2 hours to get there. The new apartment is only a 20-minute drive and much closer to where he works. He does not travel for work that often, and when he does, it's usually only for a night or two during the week. We mostly stick to doing things around where I am because I live nearer to the city where there are actually things to do. Plus, like I said, getting to around where his friends are is an annoyance with public transportation, and drinking and driving is definite no-go. Does he cancel plans a lot? Someone said. She said, yes, he cancels or comes late quite often. I don't know exactly where the new apartment is. I know the village it's in, but not the address. As I said before, I've never really met any of his friends except for one of them one time. Oh, lordy lord. Okay. Well, we're going to read the update. There's 2 updates. First one is 6 weeks later. So it's been a while. The story was developing, and I don't want to update without knowing anything for sure. I never expected my post to get so much attention, and minus the few comments and PMs about being a slut, I really appreciate all of the input everyone had. And I read every single comment and message, so first off, thanks to everyone. As many people suggested I do, I started with a conversation with Tim, where I made it very, very clear how much the whole situation bothered me and why it was an issue for me. I tried to show him things from my perspective and tried to make him understand why I was so upset. He said he understood and he apologized profusely. He cried and I cried. He said it was never his intention to hurt me and that he hadn't realized this had been such a large issue for me and that he had been selfish about it. He said it was all going to change and that I would meet his friends and see where he's staying and get to Skype with his family, etc., etc. He said I was the most important part of his life here and that he can't imagine life without me in it. He said he wants to find an apartment for us to live in together and that when I'm done with school, he wants to go back home together for good. He also told me that the girl in the pictures was an old family friend and that he was in the obituary because he is still close with the family and, quote, they still wish I was a part of the family. I decided to wait and see if he actually held up his end of things this time. And so we made up and all was well. What I didn't mention is that during my snooping phase before this conversation, I found the phone number to the landline where Stephanie lives and decided to give it a call asking for Tim. Stephanie's dad answered, and when I asked for Tim, he told me to call his cell phone because this was the landline. So, not exactly helpful. Before you guys freak out about the dad thing, the house is like a duplex where the parents have their own half and Stephanie has her own half. This is not uncommon in small villages here. A couple days after Tim and I talked, he texted me asking if I had called Stephanie's house asking for him. I decided not to lie and admitted it. He said that she texted him saying that some girl with an accent had called the house asking for him, and he immediately thought that it must have been me. I explained that I did it because I felt desperate for answers and just wanted to know what was going on. I also told him that it was inconclusive. He got very upset and said I betrayed his trust and that I was acting like an insane person. He isn't exactly wrong about that part, but I explained that I felt forced to take such actions because I felt like I was never going to get any answers any other way. I apologized for the invasion of privacy and for bothering Stephanie and her family. After a few days, he calmed down and forgave me, saying, however, that this may push back me meeting his friends because he told them what happened and they were pissed that I would treat him that way. I waited a few weeks to see if anything would change, and unsurprisingly, it did not. So, this past weekend, he got very drunk one night, and I was able to open his phone with his fingerprint while he was sleeping. I found texts from Stephanie from the day before talking about what they should make for dinner that night. He told me he was out of town for work that night. I found lots of hearts and I love yous and even him using the same pet names for her as he does for me. He told her he was going out of town this weekend for work and how much he would miss her. I looked through the past few weeks of messages between them and saw that he had sent her quite a few of the same pictures that he had sent me. He had invited her to have a glass of wine with his buddy and her girlfriend. He picked her up from work multiple times, and there were lots of conversations about who was making dinner that night and what they should eat. I went back and looked for dates where I knew he had slept over with me, and he had always told her he was crashing at a friend's place or out of town for work or something along those lines. I also found a group text message titled Family that included Tim, his sister, his mom, and Stephanie. I looked at pictures of Stephanie that she had sent him and was able to very obviously see that it was her in the pictures that I found on Facebook. So you guys were right. For the last 2 years, he's been living with her and seeing me on the side, all while telling me how much he loves me and admires me and how we're going to have a future together. I have been duped and taken advantage of, and I feel like a complete idiot because of it. I haven't talked to him yet, but when he comes over later in the week, I plan to tell him that I know everything. I also plan to tell him that he is a complete asshole. In my ideal conversation, he would explain to me why he did this and what the F he was thinking during all of this. But I'm pretty sure those are just things that I'll never know or understand. Obviously, I will break up with him. I also plan on contacting Stephanie with a letter telling my side of the story. I will give her dates that I know he spent the night with me, so that she can cross-check them with dates that he did not come home. I also plan to include a USB stick with pictures of Tim and me from the past 2 years and screenshots of some of our conversations from the last couple of months. I can't make her believe me, but I want to at least do my best for her. I feel like I owe it to her as a fellow human being to let her know what kind of man she's been with for the last 4 years. I'm open to absolutely any advice on my plan and on how to move forward from this. I won't lie, I feel so lost and so helpless right now. By breaking up with Tim, I'm losing a huge part of my life in this country, and I'm definitely going to be feeling this hole for a while. So any help is appreciated. Thank you guys so much for listening, and sorry this is long AF. I got carried away. First thing I have to say, do not meet up in private with him to break up with him, because if this man can do this diabolical of a thing, then he can do something to hurt you. And also, you never know. You really never know, especially when you don't even know this guy. Like, truly, you don't know him. You really know nothing about him. You've been together 2 years and you don't know absolutely zip about him. He could easily be very violent and end up killing you because he doesn't want you to tell. Like, this is me being paranoid, but hey, this stuff happens all the time. And I would not be so confident in meeting up with him in a private place. Like, he could kill you because he doesn't want you to tell his girlfriend at home or his wife or whoever the hell she is. I mean, they could be married for all you know. Also, I'm so sorry. Obviously, like, it's not her fault at all that she was put through this. It's obviously this guy's fault. He's a shit person and he tricked her. But there are things that you need to look at. Like, you gotta look for the red flags when you're in relationships like this. Like, obviously, if you're with someone for 2 years and you barely know them and you've never met any of their friends or their family or anything like that, like, there is something up. I think it doesn't take that long. Like, usually within the first 6 months, I would say, when you're meeting. Obviously, it depends what the situations are. But if you haven't met people that are close to him, take that as a sign that there's probably something devious or deceiving going on. This gnat actually can fuck off because it's been flying in my face and it's pissing me off. There's one last update. Let's see what it says. Again, I'd like to start off this post with a thank you to everyone who responded with constructive and helpful advice. I read every comment, reply, and PM. So I took your advice and did not try to have a conversation with Tim. I realized that since he was so successfully able to manipulate me for 2 years, having one last conversation with him was bound to end up with me doubting my findings and perhaps my sanity. I wrote Stephanie a 3-page letter detailing the relationship that Tim and I have had over the past 2 years, making clear that it was serious and not just a fling. I mentioned dates and events that most people would not have known about, and I included the intricate lies and backstory that he had told me. I included a list of dates from the last 2 months that he spent the night with me and encouraged her to cross-check them with nights that he wasn't at home. I printed out a few photos of us as a quick visible proof, and I included the rest of the photos on a USB stick in the letter. The stick also contained screenshots of any particularly incriminating conversations that we've had over the last few months. I scanned postcards that he had sent me from various vacations and included those as well. For safe measure, I also included a copy of the letter, in case the hard copy went somehow mysteriously missing. I gave her my email address and phone number and asked her to contact me if she wanted to. On Wednesday night, I had someone drive me to where she lives. If Tim was there, I would just have confirmations that he actually lives there and we'd leave. If he wasn't there, I'd ring the doorbell and hand her the letter personally. We drove the 45 km and Tim was still there in the living room on his laptop. It was obvious he lived there. She was nowhere to be seen. His and her names were on the mailbox. I called to see if he'd pick up and he ignored the call. We headed back home. On Thursday morning, I mailed the letter. I ensured that it was a registered post. In order to receive the letter, she'd have to show her ID and sign for it. On Friday, the letter arrived. She was not home, so she received a notification to go pick up the letter at the post office. On Saturday morning, she picked it up and I got an email of the receipt with her signature on it. Throughout all this, I conversed normally with Tim and made excuses as to why he couldn't come over during the week, so as to not tip him off to anything. He stopped talking to me about 20 minutes after she picked up the letter Saturday morning, and I have not heard from him since. He has, however, defriended me and my family on Facebook. I have not heard from Stephanie either. So now, it's really over. I hope with my whole heart that he was not able to lie and manipulate his way out of the situation with her, but I'll probably never know. I don't expect to hear from him again. I feel very lonely, taken advantage of, and beaten down. I'm going to do my best to try to come out of the situation without trust issues and without being cynical and jaded. I'm seeking therapy to make sure I don't slip into a depression. For now, I need to find ways to distract myself and fill up any free time. Thanks again for all your help. This really sucks, but I'll get through it and hopefully be a stronger person for it. Quick edit. I forgot to mention that I'm going to get tested on Tuesday to be safe. Obviously, if anything comes out of that, I'll do my best to notify them both. That's actually so mother effing scary. The top comment says, whenever OPs in these type of posts say they'll wait to confront their BF until they meet next in person, no. What are you doing? Do not. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, that's just so unsafe, especially when it's something like this where he was manipulating and deceiving you this meticulously, especially like with down to the detail, and for 2 years, and he's living with this woman. Like, that's just wild. Obviously, like, and I don't fault her at all. Like, I don't want to come off as like I'm faulting her for this man's red flags and this man being deceitful and this man being devious. I don't want to come off like that. But obviously, like, as women, we do have to look out for things like this, and we do have to be extra suspicious, and we do have to be extra paranoid. And unfortunately, that's just like the price we have to pay for being a woman, which really sucks. But I highly encourage anyone who is in a relationship and it's anything similar to this to be questioning it, because unfortunately, men are devious and men are scary, and they do things like this for God knows what reason. Like, what the reason was for you to do that, I'm not really sure. Like, I'm not really sure why you want to have to maintain two committed relationships at the same time is a little bit crazy to me, but that happens, and unfortunately, it sucks. And I feel so bad for her. I feel for her, because that's just like such a terrible situation to have to deal with. The title of the next story is, Am I the asshole for not inviting my boyfriend to my graduation dinner because of what he said to my dad? Hi Reddit, throwaway because my boyfriend knows my main. So I, 19 female, just graduated college early. Yay me. My family is super close-knit, especially me and my dad. He's a single dad who basically gave up everything to raise me. Like, this man worked 2 jobs when I was in high school so I could do extracurriculars and not worry about a thing. We're tight. Anyway, I've been dating Jake, 22 male, for about 8 months. He's funny, a bit sarcastic, and usually great to be around. We've had ups and downs, but nothing major until last week. My dad threw me a small graduation dinner, just close family and a couple of my best friends. Jake was going to be invited, but the day before the dinner, he came over to help me pick an outfit out and ended up chatting with my dad. I wasn't in the room the whole time, but I heard them laughing at first, and then voices got lower. Later, when Jake left, my dad pulled me aside and said, "I don't like how he talks to me." I asked what happened, and apparently Jake had said something like, "You must be glad your job as a dad is finally over," in a joking way. My dad apparently just smiled and changed the subject, but I could tell it really hurt him. He's sensitive about that kind of stuff, and honestly, so am I. When I texted Jake about it, he doubled down and said my dad was being too emotional and that it's not that deep. That rubbed me the wrong way. My dad has never asked for anything, and this dinner was a big deal for him. So I made the choice to not invite Jake. I didn't tell him until the day of, and he blew up saying I was choosing my dad over him and that I'm immature for ghosting him for a stupid dinner. I told him he needed to apologize to my dad first before being welcome around my family again. He said I'm being dramatic and that my dad needs to grow up. So now he's barely speaking to me, and some of my friends are split. A couple say I did the right thing. Others think I should have let him come and talked it out after. Okay, number one, the minute he is being rude about your dad, goodbye. Saying that he's too sensitive, okay. And I love that about a man. You should be sensitive. You should be empathetic. You should be emotional. Like, hello? And then second of all, him calling her immature, well, maybe because she's 19. She is immature. And so are you. You're 22. So you're not that much more mature, girl. So now he's barely speaking to me. Good. Break up with him. You don't need someone like that that doesn't respect your family. Because immediately a good partner would hear that they upset one of your family members and would say, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That wasn't my intentions. I will apologize immediately. I feel so bad." Right? That's what a good partner would do. Unless, of course, like it was something that, was completely misconstrued or miscommunicated, but clearly that's not the situation here. Okay, the update is 5 days later. "Hey Reddit, I didn't think that this would get much attention, but thanks for all the responses. I read a lot of them, even the brutally honest ones, lol. A bunch of people asked for an update, so here we go. After the whole graduation dinner situation, I gave Jake some space. I thought maybe he just needed time to cool off and think things through. I was still upset, but I genuinely hoped that he would come around, maybe even reach out to apologize to my dad. He didn't. Instead, the day after the dinner, he posted some cryptic IG story like black screen, white text, classic drama saying something like, "Some people value performative loyalty over real love." Okay, philosopher. I ignored it. But then my cousin, who was at the dinner and follows Jake, messaged me asking if everything was okay because apparently Jake was replying to comments under that story with eye roll emojis whenever someone mentioned family or dads. At that point, I was like, what are we doing here? So I texted him one more time. I said, quote, "Hey, I need to know where you stand. If you still think what you said wasn't a big deal and you don't want to apologize, then maybe this isn't going to work." He read it, didn't reply, left me on read for 3 days. Then, out of nowhere, he sent me this long paragraph saying I clearly have unresolved daddy issues and that he should have known I'd always prioritize the first man in my life over any future ones. Y'all, my jaw was on the floor. Not only was that wildly disrespectful, it proved exactly why I made the right choice. I told him we're done, blocked his number, told my friends what he said, and even the ones who thought I was being too harsh before were like, yeah, no, he sucks. And my dad, he didn't even know half of this was happening, but when I told him in a very PG way, he just said, "You deserve someone who respects all of you, including where you come from." Anyway, single now, degree in hand, peace restored. And my dad and I went out for pancakes the next morning and laughed about how I almost invited a man who beefs with father figures to a family dinner. Thanks for the advice. Some of y'all saved me from wasting more time. Thank God. And I'm really glad that why would she have daddy issues? She has a really nice and respectful dad who taught her what she should look for in a man, and clearly that's not you. The top comment says, "Of all the people in your girlfriend's life you could view as competition, you're beefing with her dad and a present loving father at that." Right. Like, this guy's a good example of what a father should be and what a man should be. sensitive, emotional, respectful to women, respectful in general, like, sorry, you're the wrong one. You're in the wrong here, buddy. That's the end of that episode. It is actually storming so hard, and I almost just threw up when I was reading that story because I was so nauseous because I'm so starving and hungry. So I have got to go. I love you guys, and I hope you enjoyed that episode. Obviously, let me know what you thought in the comments about all those stories. I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions and comments and concerns and deepest, darkest secrets, okay? Love you. Talk to you in the next episode. Bye. My merch is out. Yeah, but this is it. And this comes in pink, black, and white. If you want to get a little cute piece of merch, go grab one.
Link is in the description to purchase.
Love you guys. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.